To New Direction. My name's Jay Izzo, and oh man, do we have another great show for you. I'm so excited. Part of our new series that we've been doing this year, first year ever, is I actually bring people live into the studio and we get to chat with them about leadership and success and purpose and entrepreneurship and just any other subject that comes up that might be relevant to you. I wanted to do a show, some shows this year where I really was able to have real conversations about people who are doing the things that you may want to do or want to improve the things that you want to do. I mean, this show is called A New Direction for a reason. And the reason I chose that name about 10 years ago is because I want to help you find a new direction, whether that be in your life, whether that be in your career, whether that be in your business, or whatever area of life that you're interested in improving. That's what this show is for. So today, I'm excited because I have a really good friend of mine who is here with me. His name's Jim Allen. And you go, I think I may know that name. And you may in fact know that name. Jim and I have been friends for about 30 years. In fact, we knew each other before I got married, which is going to be 28 years this year. So let me just introduce you to him. Okay. So what happens when you take a brilliant engineering mind and point it at the world of real estate? You know what you get? Jim Allen. Jim started with an engineering degree and a curiosity about property, but he quickly realized his true calling wasn't in metallurgy, can't say that twice, it was in people. And over the last 3 decades, he has built a powerhouse with over 100 professionals that's dominated the North Carolina landscape. He's been named the #1 agent globally for Coldwell Banker multiple times and was recently inducted into the North Carolina Home Builders Association Hall of Fame. Now, let me just say something about the North Carolina Home Builders Association Hall of Fame. You may not know this, but it is the largest home builders association in the United States, period. And he was inducted to the Hall of Fame, so it's pretty cool. What sets Jim apart, though, isn't just the 1,500 homes he sells every year. It's his resilience. He's the guy who grows his business when the market turns, leaning on problem-solving lenses, no excuse culture. And he joins me today, and I could not be more proud to have him with me on the show. Jim, welcome to A New Direction, my friend.
Let me just say this, and I don't want it to sound like mutual admiration society, but there's no human being. I've never been nervous in an interview in my life, but one of my best friends is interviewing me, and I love him so much, and you're so good at this. And I watch when you are with these guys who've written these books that are so up here and how you manage that. I'm like in shock. And I've been teasing you that I wanted to be on here for a long time, really, because I see the benefit and how you're trying to give back to all these folks. And that's what I want to be a part of. How do we help other people?
Right.
That's what I hope comes out of today. I know me and you're going to have fun no matter what else happens. But look, my stomach was turning today when I got up because I was like, whatever I say, I want it to be a blessing on the people we talk to.
Yeah.
And I want to be, if I can be in your shadow of what we're giving back, because that's your gift. You give, and that's what I want to do today with you.
Well, let's do that, because I think we have a number of conversations, and I think one of the first questions that comes out of this is most people, especially in the Triangle, know what you've built, right? But here's the question. But before all of this, who were you and what shaped you as a kid?
Wow. See, and I don't want anybody out there to think this is a victim's mentality when I say what I'm getting ready to say, but I grew up really poor. I grew up in a place that didn't like poor people. We were in a society, you were split. We had really wealthy people where I grew up and really poor. We happened to be on the poor side of it. And growing up that way, I had a little chip on my shoulder. I didn't know I had it until I got in kindergarten. And at first day of kindergarten, I was the only kid, and there were holes in my pants and shoes that 2 of my cousins had worn before me. And people let me know really quick that I didn't fit. And I've carried that, unfortunately, but I made it my life's goal to work my way out of whatever that was. Instead of it being a crutch, I wanted to be how I got along with life. And, so I grew up and I loved playing baseball. It was my way to escape everything. Like I could put whatever I had into that, and I did. And I also realized my parents wanted me to be an engineer from the time I was 5 years old. That's what I would hear. I unfortunately lost my father early in my life, like a lot of people do. But he molded me in a lot of ways. When he passed, everybody, 2 grocery stores in our town closed. My dad ran a little local convenience store and restaurant, and not big stuff. I'm talking like
Right.
in a community that had 47 people living in it in Samora, North Carolina. Not like big money making.
Yeah, right.
But he went to those grocery stores every day. And when he died, the grocery stores closed to go to his funeral. Like all these people were there. I remember seeing him in the grocery store, but that was like how they were connected to my dad. I couldn't figure out. And losing him so early, I don't know if I ever figured that out completely, but I was blessed to have a mom named Boots that told me every time somebody else put me down or told me I wasn't good enough, that I put my pants on just like everybody else. And as long as she believed in me, I didn't need anybody else to believe in me.
Yeah. It's interesting. You talk about baseball and sports. Growing up in a town of 119 people in Nebraska, right? And parents didn't have any money, and I could relate to the holes in the blue jeans story. But I felt like sports, baseball especially, was an equalizer.
Absolutely.
Because I may not have had all the comforts that some of the friends that I had, but I could play the game, right? I could play football, I could play baseball, and that was kind of my equalizer in that it didn't matter how much money I had. And I think that's a really important thing, is that, for young people who may be listening to the show, is that there's always something out there that can equalize you. Maybe you're an artist, right? Maybe you're a singer. It could be a variety of other things. It just happened to be that we played sports.
Or you can be broken like guys like me and not have any gifts, have no physical gifts, love to be able to sing, would love to have your voice, would love to have no physical gifts except for effort. Yeah. And you know what the thing is in sports? It's one of the few places the work you do when nobody else is watching pays off when you get on a field. Yeah. And everybody else is like, oh, gosh, how'd that kid hit that ball like that? That's a freak thing. They don't see the 20 hours you spent with a tobacco stick hitting rocks in your backyard because that's all you got. Didn't have a baseball bat. That was like, but if you can hit a rock with a tobacco stick, you can hit a baseball.
We had axe handles. We were hitting rocks with axe handles.
Don't matter what it is.
I remember throwing balls against the wall, catching balls coming off a brick wall because it'd be the different angles, right, to field balls and things like that. And it was those things that I was doing every day, as a kid. And then I think, there's that thing, you talk about, it is the things that we don't do, people don't see us do, that actually produces so much of what we do. And there's a bigger lesson in there, not just as a kid, there's a bigger lesson in there as an adult, right? Yes. That, they look at you and they go, well, blah, blah, blah. Look where he's at. He's done this. I'm like going, yeah, but you don't understand. I knew him at Prudential, okay, when he was first starting, right? And I watched him build this with his mom, Boots, by the way, who was a tremendous character that you needed to know, because she was a character.
Oh, no question.
She was a character.
No question.
But I think there's something to be said, even in our business world. It's oftentimes the work that they don't see that creates that. What do you think? There was a moment, maybe there was a failure, maybe there was a conversation that you think fundamentally changed your life?
So I'm going to tell you, I had been selling real estate for a pretty good little while. And I went to a national convention, first one I've ever been to. And the year I went, I wasn't in the top 1,000 agents in the country, had no clue what it took to get there or anything else. But I remember riding around, seeing all these people that had this little blue ribbon on. Well, there was only 10 of them in the room because they were the 10 top agents in the country at the time. And my company had just gotten bought. Well, I was still at Prudential. Company had just gotten bought. And the new group that bought it brought in this guy named Tommy Camp, who was supposed to be the leader of the company. And, you know, we were sitting at this national convention, and I walk up to him after all the top 100 had walked across stage, and then the top 10. And I said, hey, what did number 10 do in units? And what did number 10 do in GCI? And he looked me stone cold in the face and laughed and said, nobody from Raleigh, North Carolina can ever do. And he didn't realize. So the bad news, the great news, I owe him a bunch for this. He said it to a guy that everybody's been saying no to their whole life, who wouldn't take no. My mom told me no's not in the dictionary. If you can find it, you let me know. And she specifically, I'm not kidding you, gave me a dictionary and took the word no out of the dictionary, tore the piece of paper, swear to God, took it out of the dictionary and gave it to me. And this guy told me, you can't ever do this. And I was so mad that I came back intentionally to prove to him, not for me, not for money. I wanted to prove to this guy how wrong you are.
Right.
You don't know what somebody can do if they try. So I took 2 pieces of paper. I was single at the time, barely able to pay the rent on the place I was living in. And I glued them to the top of my mirror, the number that number 10 did in each thing, because he wouldn't give me the numbers. But this other lady who's now still in my life, Nancy Harner, gave me those numbers when we got back to Raleigh. I put them on my mirror, and every day I sat down to figure out, how many calls do I have to make? How many things do I have to do to get to each of these goals? And every day when I pluck something off, I would put it in my mirror, and it wasn't a big plate glass mirror, but it was like this by the end of the year. And I went to that next convention having no idea that I would be in the top 10 in these 2 things, because I wasn't in the top 1,000 when I went the year before. And I was banking off of the numbers they did the year before. They could have grown 100%.
Right.
And I just wanted to get in there. So I didn't ever look at anybody but number 10. Didn't care what anybody else above that had done. I just wanted to get in the club. And I knew I was above those numbers significantly in each category when I went back. And back then, the fun thing about going to one of these national conventions, nobody knew where they ranked at the time. The 10 people were standing backstage behind these little clouds, and you didn't know what the number was on yours when you broke through. And they didn't do them in order. So I had no clue. That next year, first year after this goal, I was number 6 and number 8 in the country. And I was like, and then once I got in the top 10, I was like, well, I sure can't be number 10. How do I get the number? You know, like that sports
the competitor.
You got to win this.
Yeah.
And, you know, no idea what that meant, and willing to sacrifice anything. Look, my hair, you knew me at this age, my hair fell out little circles on my head because I got alopecia. I was working and stressing myself. I didn't care. I was willing to die to achieve, so I could make my dad, who was dead, proud. Because when you don't have a dad, and you built him, I built mine up as a hero, right? Sure. And thinking he was all these things, and he's not around anymore. And I was still trying to make him happy, realizing he's in heaven and just hoping he said, okay, he's okay.
Yeah. So, you know, it's interesting what motivates us here, because, you know, I have said, you know, when people tell me I can't do something, it's this thing about, oh, really? Watch, right? That's been kind of a little thing about me, where they'll say, oh, you can't do that because that's not going to work. And I'm like, nope, I won't say it out loud to you, but inside myself, I'm like, oh, really?
Like when you were in the world's strongest man competition, I mean, there's 100 people in that. That's like a really small group of folks, right?
I was training for that. And that was just a complete, it didn't wind up the way I wanted to, but it was a lot of fun to try to get in there. But I do think I want people to understand that it's really important that you look at yourself and realize that, just because someone else seems to think they know your future, what's critical is not letting them allow you to be the victim of your own life. And sometimes you just have to stand up, and like you did, I've had to do it too, where we've just had to stand up and say, no, you don't get that. I'm not giving that to you. So I want to throw this out at you. When you look at yourself in the mirror, right? Because I have a saying that I ask my clients, my coaching clients, right? And I say, ask them this, if you are what you do, who will you be when you don't do that anymore? So how do you, because we attach ourselves to so many labels, right? Husband, father, son, daughter, mother, realtor, builder, developer, right? We've got all these labels out there. But I don't believe that's who we are, is a label. So I know this is a tough question, because this is a really hard question for people to answer. But when you think about you beyond what you do, who is that person you stare at in the mirror?
So first, it's really unique that you asked me about this mirror thing. First thing I do when people on board on my team is I give them a mirror. They're like, why are you handing me a mirror? And it's because when I look into the mirror, I can only see what I think, what I look like. The other side of that mirror, that black side, I can't see through it. So if I'm trying to please the whole world, which I can't, and right. I'm going to answer your question that's not direct, but so many people are looking at the back of that mirror trying to find themselves when you can't see into this other person's soul. This mirror is a reflection, and that reflects who you are, where you are, and nobody but you knows what your heart is. You and God know what your heart is. None of these other people have a clue. For me, I know what I am. I'm a servant. That's that. If I was to if somebody said, hey, what's your title in life? It's a servant, because for whatever happened to bruise me when I was a kid, I want to make other people's lives easier than my life was. Not that mine was impossible, because look, I've got a child right now that's blind, and I get to walk in his shoes a lot. His life's a lot tougher than mine is. I mean, I'm not even on the same planet of hurt that he's understood in his young life, but he does it with gratitude, and he loves God so much. The connection he has is beyond what I can describe. But for me, my goal, because I can't fix everybody, and I'm a fixer, and I've tried to fix everybody. I can't even fix me. How can I fix anybody else? And I'm blessed enough to know that God chose broken characters to lead the world. So I know how broken I am. So I can just be a servant. I can try and translate, what does God want me to bring to other people's lives? And I don't want myself to sound perfect or anything, because I'm not.
Right.
But I know that's probably what I am.
I have said often when I'm working with people, we each have a set of God-given gifts, talents, and abilities that are a fingerprint, that are in a combination like no one else's. And when we discover those, and that discovery process is not always easy, as you well know, it's a tough discovery process, because we don't realize, first of all, what the gifts really are, or we don't think of them as gifts. Secondly, we don't think the talents that we have are worth all that much oftentimes, right?
We know they're not.
Right. And then the abilities that we have, we tend to downplay, but yet they're God-given talents, gifts, and abilities. So they got to have some value.
100%.
And so, when you look at that from your perspective, that discovery process where you go from tobacco farm to NC State engineering, and then all of a sudden here you are today where you're at. What was that discovery process like for you, where you finally went, wow, this is it. This is where my gifts, talents, and abilities really fit in. How did that discovery process happen?
So, I'm still in the middle of it. And I feel like, though, the great thing about age, when I was a young kid, my dad told me, he said, son, I would love to come back and be your age. And my dad had just had this horrific car accident, lost the use of his left arm and a lot of his manhood, because we are based on what our tools are sometimes.
Yep.
And he was angry I mean, I'm talking about angry, like at a level I don't even understand. And I'm embarrassed to admit this. And I want everybody to know I loved my dad. So when I say this is a fact. He came out of the hospital after being in the hospital for about 6 months. They didn't every day. And back then they wouldn't let kids visit people in the hospital when we were young.
That's right.
And, you know, I didn't know daily whether my dad was going to be alive or not. First day out, he's got his arm in this thing, and I hadn't seen this arm. Oh my God, it was scary looking. And I had not seen it personally up front. But that morning I had spoken to my mom on the phone, and cell phones didn't exist. So I asked her, could I go up and play on this mud hill up the street from where we lived? And it, you know, it was only about 6 kids in my community because there was only 47 people in the town I grew up in. And my mom said no. And my best friend was on that hill, and a bunch of other kids jumped on him, threw a rock at him, busted his head, and started beating him up.
No.
I go up to protect him and get in a fight with like 4 of them, and I'm pulling them all off of him. My dad and mom drove home from the hospital and passed me while I was there. My dad stopped the car and he said, "Get home now." Now, most terrified human being on earth was me. I get on my bike, which by the way was my sister's bike, and it was a, you know, girl's bike, and, you know, it didn't have a little bar in the middle, and everybody teased me about it, but it was the only bike I had. I rode back to my house, and my dad caught me out in the street before I got in our house, grabbed this, and I went flying over the handlebars. And I think whatever anger he had inside that day to what had happened to him, he took out on me. And I remember my mom, you know, crying and being horrified and all these things. And as a man, I completely understand now what he was going through and had the pain he was feeling, and how he took that. He didn't mean to in that moment. I'm not mad at my dad about it. I forgave him a long time ago, but that happening in my life changed how I think about things sometimes. You know, we none of us get what we deserve. Because we get what we deserve. I mean, my dad needed to beat me. I did something he told me not to. I got exactly what I deserved. It wasn't what I wanted, but I did get it.
Yeah. We're with Jim Allen. He's the owner of Jim Allen Group, founder of Jim Allen Group, #1 real estate team, Caldwell banker in the world. By the way, you're listening to him here on A New Direction. Hey, folks, I've got a couple sponsors I need to talk about. One is Linda Craft. She's been an original sponsor. And listen, here's the thing. She's been around for 40 plus years, almost as long as Jim is, actually. But they became in about 1985. Maybe Jim came a little earlier. The fact of the matter is, here's the thing, is that they both, and Linda too, has done her work, because what she is, she's a transition specialist, a life transition specialist. And you go, well, I thought it's real estate. Yeah, but think about it. Every place you've ever lived has been a life transition. She knows how to take the stress out of that. And so what she does is she helps you reduce the stress so that you have the opportunity to purchase the home of your dreams. So check them out, lindacraft.com, LINDACRAFT.com. And a new sponsor, data443.com. That's DATA443.com. Listen, if you're a CEO, right, how are you managing your emails? How do you know what's coming in and what's going out? Well, Data 443 has a product called Siren, Cyren. I highly recommend that you check Siren out, because Siren will stop the bad things from happening before they ever get to your server. And what's more, guess what? If anything bad goes out, it'll stop it there too. So check out Siren, Cyren, part of Data 443's packaging. Check them out, Data443, DATA443.com. And we're back here on A New Direction with my friend Jim Allen, and we're just getting started. We got through the first section of the show. How you feeling about the first section?
I feel good, you know, but I want this to be a gift to other people. Like that's what you do. I watch every show you do. I watch most of them live. I mean, I hope I get these things telling me I'm your #1 fan. So I must be doing enough of it. But look, I'm doing it vicariously because you are like one of my real friends
Yep.
that I know your heart in
Yeah.
life, and I know what you bring commitment wise to those shows. So like, I feel like I'm not enough to be on one of your
Oh, no, you
shows,
are.
but I'm thrilled that you're letting me.
You know, you're welcome. This is part of your leadership thing. And I want to move into the leadership thing with you because you have a bunch of people that you have. I think you have somewhere between 100 and 150 agents that you have under you. Is that close to a number?
It's close.
Okay.
And I think it's 105 or 106 right
Okay,
now.
so
I
it's
think that's the number.
a little over 100 agents. When we think about leadership and I think about, well, maybe you can manage 10, 15, maybe 20 people in small. How do you lead effectively where people feel led individually when you have such a big team? I know that's not something I wrote you, but this is one of those this just in questions.
It's an easy one for me to answer because you lead with your heart in whatever it is you're doing with those folks. And this is why I still do what I do. Number one, I feel responsible for everybody that comes into my presence.
Right.
I feel that because I'm still that little boy that wanted somebody else to be responsible for them. And that's what I get. That's my gift. I get to give that back to other people. Now, my thing I have to tear down the walls of is they built up this image of who they think I am.
Right.
I know I'm not this person. I know what I am. And I'm happy with who it is, even as broken as I know I am. But they're almost afraid of you sometimes. And there's an intimidation thing. And I have to just quickly dispel that with people and say, look, I am nothing. Like I want you to be sure that you know God picks the people to be leaders that he knows aren't in his shadow.
Right.
And I'm not.
Right.
So just know that up front. But, I lead them all differently. I've hired a rainbow of people intentionally. Because if everybody I hire is exactly like me, then they're going to all run off and do their own thing. And I'm not going to be able to guide them and I can only help people just like me. If your goal is to help people, you have to surround yourself by different types of people. Like if I'm on the far right, I got to have somebody on the far left to counterbalance me and be willing to debate with them each side and not judge the other person because you think you're right and they're wrong. Learning to be wrong is a big tool as a leader. Is like I fail every day. I fail forward. That's what I do. I figure if I try enough things, I'm gonna mess up enough of them that I'll keep on getting better at whatever it is I'm doing. But I've got 41 full-time employees. And all of those people are agents as well. My selling crew's about 60 some, but it's 100 and something people that I feel totally responsible for every day. And my phone on the way over here, I called somebody who no longer works with me to tell her how wonderful her son is, because, all of us think our kids are great. Her child really is. And I wanted her to know from somebody else's perspective, not that mine matters, by the way, but I wanted her to know that, you know what, somebody else sees what you see in him. And that's a gift God put in him. I wish it was me or I wish it was you, but God put that gift in that child. And I do see it.
This is a little aspect about leadership I don't think we talk about. Oftentimes when we talk about leadership, we don't talk about the encouraging leader. But I think that is a significant underestimated quality in great leadership, is leaders who can step outside of their role and look at the individual and their life and say, like you said to this woman about this woman's son, I just want to let you know that guy is a good guy. That guy's the real deal. Man, you should be proud of that guy because I think that's part that's missing in most leadership. I don't know how many leaders step outside of their world, know the personal information about the people where they can step into someone else's world and encourage that. And don't you think that it's a
100%. I mean, but it's both ways. Look, I'm gonna tell you, while you got to praise them. You also have to tell them the truth.
Right.
When they are
Right.
wrong,
Right.
you have to confront it directly with that person so that they're able to learn from that, not to beat them into submission.
Right.
That's the worst thing you can do. You got to love them through that thing that they did wrong and forgive it ahead of time. Forgiveness means once it's over, we don't have to talk about it any longer.
Right.
And we can go right on past it. They don't need my forgiveness. They need God's They need to forgive themselves. Like teaching like I am terrible at forgiving myself, but my goal in life is to get everybody else to learn to forgive themselves. Like I know every time if I'm in traffic and somebody cuts me off and I get angry, I'm just so disappointed that I couldn't manage that crisis better than I do. And I know I failed right then. I want other people to learn not to do that because I want people to enjoy the moment. Like life is so short. If they don't smell the roses every day, and I'm not good at it, I don't do it well, but I want everybody else to do it. Like I don't need to drink that water, but I'm thrilled that other people can because I think of my role in life as being responsible for other people. And since that's how I feel about things, that's my leadership style. And I like, but I don't need people to have problems for me to want to fix them. I love it when they don't have it. I love it. The best thing in the world, and I call it stealth selling. I've got agents that never brag about what they do. And they just every week keep bringing stuff and put it on my desk. And I still do all of our SAIs, which are how you determine who's paid what. And I reward what they are based on that, not a set schedule or a program, just I get to give how I want to give sometimes. And that's why I do it. I want to keep up with my business, but I love the fact I love the ones who call and tell me that what they've done too. That feels so good that you're like the parent, they get to tell about what's going on great in their life. Right. But the ones who bring in those stealth deals that are such heroes that need no praise, no nothing, like, doesn't everybody want to be that unselfish leader that these guys are? And man, it's a cool experience to get to be the leader of people that are so much better than you are. Like that's how I feel every day. I feel like, man, how they let me be the head of this thing. It's insane.
Who do you think was, because your dad died relatively early in your life. So who were leaders in your life, either inside or outside of business, who showed you really how to lead with character?
Well, I'm going to tell you. So thank God I'm a Christian, and thank God I read the Bible enough that's where I got most of that praise, because growing up where I grew up, we didn't get that. I was lucky to be around people that I got to listen to. And young in my career, I would bet you if the guy named Arthur Salmon were sitting in here, and that's one of those guys I learned an awful lot from, a man named Zach Bacon, character-wise, I learned so much about how to be a real leader from watching how he led. He led more humbly than any human being could ever lead. I got to watch them, but the truth is, I never felt worthy to be in their shadows, so I didn't really take much away from it. And then I started really noticing my heroes in the Bible were all broken people, and God was still able to use them. So it encouraged me that he might be able to use me the same way. And I mean, that's really, and I'm being straight up, I know a lot of people say it, that really is where I gained my confidence and the ability not to every day want to shoot myself because I know how terrible I am and how bad I think and all the other stuff. Because unfortunately, just because I'm saved doesn't mean my brain stopped working negatively.
Right. Sure. No, I mean, we're humans at the end of the day, and our humanity shows up in a variety of ways, oftentimes in ways we don't want it to show up.
I'm going to say something that may not resonate with a lot of the audience, but the Holy Spirit traps me in the shower every morning of my life. Every problem I worry about, the things I'm concerned about, I get in the shower. I'm not smart enough to figure out these solutions. And the Holy Spirit, we think it's our conscience. We blame it on all the Holy Spirit's sitting there telling me in my head solutions to things I've never thought of. And I come out of there convicted because he's usually right. I come out of there and try what he's giving me a solution, and they work. Or I'll pick up the Bible and I read, like I've got this daily read Bible I give to everybody. And I give it to people because my stomach and my esophagus separated. I'm the only person in the world that's lived after this happening. I had to eat Enfamil in little caps for 6 months. I lost so much weight, I almost died. And that's what God had to do to me, trap me in a hospital bed with tubes down my throat. Every time I turned my head one way or the other, the TV screen, I would choke. So I had to keep my head straight ahead. I had a 1 and a 2-year-old at the time. My mother-in-law was at my house keeping our kids. My wife was at the hospital with me. My mother-in-law fell down the steps at my house and broke her wrist. My father-in-law had to take her to the emergency room. My wife had to leave to be with the 1 and 2-year-old. The day before, a lady named Judy called. Judy calls her name. Like you might hear that name before. There's another person in town who sells real estate who's got that same last name. They're sister-in-laws. That person gave me a daily read Bible that day that I didn't know why she gave it to me. I didn't think much about it. I put it in a little bag. And this happened, by the way, right in the middle of the banking crisis in 2008. I put that Bible in this little bag. Wife just happens to have packed my clothes in that little bag. She goes home to take care of my kids while my mother-in-law is in the hospital, and I'm trapped. I can't watch TV, don't know what to do, can't reach anything near me. I reach in that bag, and there's a daily read Bible. And I read that thing cover to cover 3 times while I was up there. The proverb every day, I started realizing, wait a minute, this is talking straight to me. And so now when I give this thing out to team members, the day I'm doing it, I'll read whatever that proverb is. Jay, if I told you how many times, and I haven't read it ahead of time, that what I've been talking about for an hour and a half in our sales meeting is exactly what is in this. I mean, this isn't some coincidence. It's like so real. It's crazy. And the life lessons from that are like, wait a minute, God put Proverbs there to be common sense to lead us through our lives. There's no problem I can have that isn't right there that you can find. And all you got to do, if you want to do this by accident, thumb through a daily read Bible, stop on Proverbs. Whatever's going on in your life, that's going to be the cure, right? I have that faith and I believe that.
You know, it's interesting. I had a pastor who was Jewish. He was a Messianic Jew. I was in grad school. And he taught me something that I have remembered to this day. And he said, how many days are there typically in a month? I said, well, 30, 31. He said, do you know that there's 31 chapters of Proverbs? And he said, if you will read a chapter of Proverbs every day, that will teach you how to live. And he said, if you read a chapter of Psalms every night, it'll teach you how to pray.
And you know what, like I got it out of the worst of circumstances, right? It wasn't like I was trapped.
But by the way, that lesson did not really hit home for me until years later. I just want to let you know that.
Like I was trapped. I wish I'd have had it that way. I was trapped in a bed. And the only thing I had to read was that. It wasn't like I was wanting to go do this or, here's where I think I'm going to do this today. But because I had tried a million times to read through the Bible. I am ADD or something, and I would get stuck in, Numbers or Kings. I'd get stuck in like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to get out of this chapter. And then I start reading this daily read. It gives you Old Testament, New Testament, proverb, and a psalm every day. And I got through it, and it was like, now I'm not going to tell you that the one that begot this one, that begot that one, that begot the other one didn't get me a little bit here and there. but in the format, it's like God comes to you in the format you need him to be in. And I know this wasn't supposed to be a talk about God, and I apologize. I'm not trying to, I don't want to influence anybody to think anything other than no.
Well,
I know God is real.
This is the way you lead. This is the foundational principles from which you lead from. It's also the foundational principles from which you find your purpose from. It's also the foundational principles from which you get your success from. It's also the foundational principles where you got your entrepreneurial spirit from. So don't apologize for that, because the whole point of what we're doing here today is that everybody's path is unique to themselves. And I do believe it's God guided personally. But everybody who has that has to be your journey. Do you know what I mean? Because my journey is not going to look like your journey. But what I think becomes really important for the people who are listening out there is that, you know what? You are on a journey and you're on a path. Okay, I promise you are. There is a purpose for your life. I promise you that. How that plays out, how that looks is going to be very, very different than Jim's or my situation. But this is where you found that piece. Whereas, and I would love for everybody to find it in the same way. But hopefully you will get there, because that's what we want for you, is we want you to get there and achieve this.
We find it, though, in our brokenness.
Yeah.
Like my dad's death, my mom suffering with Alzheimer's, and me being her primary caregiver for 15 years dealing with Alzheimer's. Those are my witnesses to God's love. It's like the worst things that have happened to me in my life are the blessings that have created who I am, but they're also the things I'm most appreciative of. Being able to be there and holding my mom's hand when she was dying, as much as that's the thing I dreaded. Like when you lose your dad early, your mom dying is something you can't even fathom, right?
Right.
Now that's my personal witness. Being able to have this, feel her spirit leave her body while I'm holding her hand. That day, I'm sorry, I'm going to go on this, and I don't have a choice. That day, my sister, who's a principal in high school, was leaving to go be at her school because hospice been at her house for 4 days. And my mom, there wasn't any way she was going to recover. My mom was visiting her for a couple of days, and there wasn't any way. So my sister was going to leave. Her school was an hour away. They told us, you'll notice when your mom's going to die, because this death rattle will start. Well, she'd been the same for 4 days. Nothing changed. I told my sister to go. She leaves. The second she walked out the door, the death rattle starts. Okay. And it went on for 15, 20 minutes. It wasn't like it was a short thing. Before my mom passed, my sister, the Holy Spirit had spoken to her on the way to school. She turned around and came back and was there holding her other hand while I was holding this hand. And I was reading scripture to her the whole time she was going, and talking into her ear and telling her, Mom, I'm going to be okay without you.
Yeah.
And then when she died, Jay, when she was physically gone and the doctor in the room said she was gone, I leaned back over in her ear and I said, Mom, I didn't mean it. My mom came out of death and started breathing, shook her head, didn't say anything. And then I leaned back in her ear and I said it, and she went back down and laid down and died again. I interrupted her journey. I've never felt the Holy Spirit more present in my life or in me. And I was high. I'd never been to my sister's house in Alabama before. I started walking nonstop, and I walked for hours, and I wasn't in great shape, and it was 106 degrees outside. And I can tell you right now, I don't remember any heat or anything else. I was on a journey, and that blessing is one of the things I give to other people now, because the things you dread most, God can use those to heal your heart. Like, I can't tell you, knowing your parent is in heaven. What else can I ask for? Sure. Don't need anything else.
Yeah. His name's Jim Allen, and number one team Caldwell banker in the world. Also the North Carolina Home Builder Association Hall of Fame, talking about leadership, purpose, success. You're listening to him here on A New Direction. Hey, folks, got to do some sponsors real quick. One click. That's all it takes for ransomware or phishing to shut your business down. That's it. One click. Stop the threat at the source. Check out Cyren, Cyren, with data443.com, powered by the world's most robust threat intelligence network. Cyren detects and blocks attacks in real time, protecting your data, your employees, and your reputation. Stop hoping you're safe. Start knowing you're safe. Visit Data443 right now and get that solution, Cyren, and put it to action for you. And Linda Kraft, Team Realtors. Listen, I'm going to brag here, selfish. I'm going to be a selfish brag. I'm a little biased too, maybe a lot biased. I just think it's the best website in the world, and I'll tell you why. They got listings like every other real estate website. What I love about what they did is they interviewed a child psychologist to talk about how to best move with children. They talked to veterinarians about how to best move with a pet. Those are just a few of the things, the little extras. They also have this great show called Real Estate Right Now, where they talk about real estate matters that matter to you. So check that out as well. Check out lindacraft.com. It's really easy, LINDACRAFT.com. And we're back here on A New Direction with my friend Jim Allen, and we're talking about leadership, success, purpose, entrepreneurship, all those things, and how that all works together. You've said, and I think this is a quote somewhere. I think it's a quote somewhere I found. You said you want to climb to the top of the mountain and then reach back and pull the next person up. Where did that come from in you? Was there someone who did that for you when you needed it most?
You know, it wasn't that anybody did it for me. It was that nobody did do it for me. And it made me want to do that for someone else. I remember, and this is the hollowness of how things feel. The first time I was number one agent in the world, I was like, I thought I'd won an Academy Award. I literally thought the earth just changed. When I get home, I mean, I'm going to fly home. You know, I was really thinking that stupidly, right? Well, when I got back home, I realized nothing changed. Nobody here cares whether I was number one or number 800. They could care less. And so what I realized is when you're having victories, having people alongside you that you can lift up with you is where the reward comes from. Being on a plateau or a stage, that's when I decided, I mean, really, I was the number one individual agent in the world before I became the number one team. I thought this was a good thing. It was the worst thing I'd ever done because we're all on a team. We're on a team as the human race.
Sure.
We're on a team as whatever we identify as. We're on a team, whether we want to be or we don't. We're all on a team. There's 19,200 real estate agents in the triangle.
Right.
We're all on one team, whether we say we are or not. We help each other do our businesses. We're one of the few businesses that has to help somebody else other than themselves to create a success.
Okay, so I have said this. I have said this about real estate forever. First of all, if anybody's watching, no real estate deal should ever happen. Should never happen because the seller wants the highest price, the buyer wants the lowest price, and you have two agents from two different teams. There should never be a real estate transaction ever if you start really thinking through it. And the only way that real estate transactions happen is because the agent on one side and the agent on the other side have to work together on some level to make that happen.
Have to reach across the aisle. And that's when you learn, look, your opponent is your best ally.
Yeah, right.
And whatever you do, whatever sport you played, the guy that was better than you is who drove you to be better.
Yeah.
Like, and here's the thing I realized very early in my career. I can't know what anybody else puts in effort-wise. I can only know what I put in effort-wise. So I can't be in competition with you, Jay.
Right.
We're two different people. How do I compete with you when I don't know what you might be willing to die?
Right.
I don't know what you'll put in. And I don't want to know. All I know is if whatever my efforts were today didn't kill me, I can do 1% more tomorrow because it didn't kill me this time. So there's no excuses. There's no reason why you couldn't do this. other than you like living by excuses and you want to hide behind them. And, I find there's a victim mentality in this world, and none of us are victims, and nobody cares if you are. That's the bad news. When we do these real estate update classes, sometimes we take one of the classes we all have to take is on character. Really, I mean, it's really what the definition of it is. It's not the name of the course, it's ethics, but it's really about character when you're in there. And it talks about how our profession rates to other professions and how we all are in some scale or whatever. And every time I go in there, there's people who tell all their horror stories every time you're sitting in there. And all of us have had every one of these things, but they tell it from a victim's mentality. And I think to myself when I'm in there, this is exactly why people view us these ways, because these are badges or shields we're trying to carry with us of what a victim we are by this or that or the other. And nobody is like whatever the worst thing that can happen to you is the thing that's going to inspire you to be the best if you embrace it. Like the worst things that have happened to me in my life are where my child just going blind is where I draw my strength to get up in the morning some days. I don't want to talk about him much, but I just say to you, the worst things that can happen are where you can gain your strength. And that's a great thing to know.
We've almost done our hour here. I had a whole bunch of other questions we just didn't get to.
It's my fault.
Okay. No, it's not your fault. No, we're good. I mean, this is exactly the way it's supposed to be. I say this every time I do a show, and I may have a book that's 300 plus pages long that I've read, and I've got plans to get through it, and we never get through a quarter of the book. And I always say that's exactly the way the show is supposed to be, right? So the show is exactly the way it's supposed to be. But, I do want you to give some advice. And here's the person I'm going to draw the picture for. There's a person out there, and there could be a lot of people out there who are stuck. They're not sure what they're supposed to do next, where to go next, how they're supposed to go about doing it. And they need a little inspiration. They need a little encouragement. If you were to speak to that person who's saying, Jim, I know that you're successful. I can see all your success and good for you. I just don't know how to get there. Where do I start? What should I do?
First thing I would say is stop trying to get where anybody else is. Like we talked about a few seconds ago, judge by your own self. Sit down and start reading books. If there's a topic you want to learn about, there's a book somewhere you can find. And if you can't do that, search the internet and ask those questions. Go to an AI source, ask those questions, and then read them. Doesn't mean take them into your heart or anything. Read them, because my greatest pleasure in life, is reading. I don't know why I enjoy it so much, other than I think we all should be constant students in whatever it is that we're doing. And so what I would tell everyone is, number one, write out what is it that you think you want to achieve. Now, I'm going to promise you that goal that you just set will be the thing that you don't care about when you get to that goal or you surpass it. Because one of the things early in my life, I would set these intermediary goals and then I blow past them. And I'm like, well, I didn't set my goals high enough. I've got to learn to live outside myself. And when I graduated from high school, they said, what's the most money you think you ever want to make in a year? And, times we grew up in, I said $50,000. and thinking this was this unachievable in my lifetime number.
Absolutely.
And I remember coming out of college thinking, well, gosh, if I don't make that, I'm not, and back in the early 80s, by the way.
No, right.
And thinking, right, Jimmy Carter, 18% interest. I mean, that's the environment I grew up in. And thinking, I don't know what I want to be or whatever. But my whole thing would be, take a plan of action. Write out your goals. Whatever it is you want to try, Don't try one time because nothing works one time.
Right.
Put 90 days, make it 120, whichever those two numbers you want to deal with. Commit 3 hours a day to doing something about that thing you said was your goal. 3 hours, not talking about a full-time job. I'm talking about 3 hours. Now, in that 3 hours, I got to a point where, wait a minute, 3 hours isn't enough time to do what I need to do. So I would have to wake up 2 hours early to prepare for the 3 hours, right? Because in the beginning, when I was figuring out who I was going to call, what I was going to do, how I was going to do it, I was eating into my 3 hours so much that by the time I got through, I was like, well, I didn't even accomplish anything really today.
Right.
But everything I accomplished, every time somebody said no to me, which, by the way, I don't understand because it wasn't in my dictionary.
Right.
I write it down. That's an accomplishment. I got past that phone call. He didn't kill me. The person I spoke to didn't want me to die, and I survived it. So there's an accomplishment. Having many accomplishments will get you a long ways, but you got to document what it is. Like if you first start working out and you're lifting weights and you aren't keeping track of it, you might know in your head what you did, and you might be able to tell somebody else, but nobody else can climb that same set of stairs you climbed unless you write it down. I have books and books and tablets and tablets and tablets of stuff still to this day I write down to remind myself of what it is I'm trying to do. Now, everybody tell you should go compile all those things and write all these books. Like, that's not why I do it. I do it because putting it on paper makes it real. Like, if I commit to something, I don't get to choose not to do it. When I chose 90 days, like right now, I offer to pay every person on my team $1,000 if they would take 3 hours a day out of their day and just call people. Like the first week, 80% of them stopped, and we made it a week. If you told me I can do anything for 90 days and I'm going to get an extra $1,000 I didn't do anything for, and I've tried to tell them the reward's not going to be the $1,000. The reward's going to be all the business that gets created by the fact that you sat yourself disciplined enough for 3 hours to allow yourself to engage in building this business you say you want.
Right.
A full-time job is supposed to be 40 hours a week, right? I'm not asking for 7 days. I'm asking for 15 hours a week, like a part-time job for your job, to give you a chance to grow it because you say that's what you want. Like most people, I want to be able to buy a car. I want to be able to do this. I want to be able to do that. I have these things I want. If you don't have a plan of action of how you're going to go get those things, they're not going to, there is no lottery every day that happens, and it's not going to happen. But most people are waiting for the lottery to win. And instead, goal-oriented people. Listen, I don't like the fact that you have to have goals, but would there be an Olympics right now if there weren't times that nobody else had done? There weren't lifts nobody else has ever made. There weren't pitches, whatever the thing is. Like, why would Tiger Woods be more excited about winning a gold medal in golf in the Olympics than winning the Masters? Because it's a record. It's a thing that somebody else hasn't done, and you want to achieve it. When I think Tiger right now, everybody would consider pretty successful, right? Well, Jack Nicklaus has 18 majors. Tiger has 14. He hasn't gotten there yet. I think in Tiger's mind, because he's written out his goals and he's professed them to the world, until he is willing right now to overcome a leg he can't walk on, broken pieces to his body, and not give up because he set a goal that he's willing to convict himself to get to. That's what it takes to be successful, or what other people are successful. Once you get somewhere, you're going to realize real quick, everything you thought made you a success had nothing to do with it. It was a journey to get to the point that you get to have meaningful conversations with other folks. You mature into, when I was young, I didn't understand what Christian maturity meant. What it means is God finally gets to a point that he can trust you enough to let you have these engagements with other people that you're meeting that person for a reason beyond what's real in that day. And you keep having them. We have those appointments every day. They're divine appointments, are what they're called. Most of us ignore them from the time we're born. I can't tell you how many times I've turned one down.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a lot left. I'm in the final chapters, right? No, I am, no matter what. I don't want to be, but I'm 65 years old. I'd love to say I'm going to live to be 180, and I hope I do. But I'm in final chapters, and I'm in a point where God's blessing me more right this minute every day with this ability to discern. Discernment is the best gift of God can give to anybody. And to have these divine appointments with people who tell you things about their life that are so far beyond anything you're worthy of even hearing about, but they trust you with that information. And knowing, you got to do something with this. You got to put it back to God in prayer and hope he helps those folks. On the way over here, one of my clients texted me who came here New Year's Day. And New Year's Day, one of my other guys, I wanted him to be able to be with his family. So I took him out instead. And I hadn't had a buyer in my car in a long time. I had the best time, I can humanly tell you. But God put me in those people's lives that day because she's going blind. My child's already blind. I didn't know that's why I was going. She hadn't told anybody in advance. They were just coming here to look from San Diego. No idea they were going to end up buying a house in North Hills. They weren't even thinking in those terms. Or that the doctor that's helping my child at the University of Pittsburgh, Dr. Sahil, is now her doctor. But that's how that divine appointment happened. And I can tell you that family feels it and I feel it. And she texted me this morning to tell me their husband was having to go to the doctor because he had injured his back. So I'd pray for him. And my son is in Pittsburgh today with his doctor. We got his surgery in December, and it's supposed to take 9 to 12 months for it to recover so that he'll be able to see again. And we're 3 months in. This is going to be the first milestone marker they do today. And
so he's got goals. You're saying the same thing. There's goals in everything that we do. Put them down on paper, make sure you have them, and then follow through on them, do the work, do the effort, measure, but it doesn't become real till you write it all down. And that's exactly what's happening in this situation here, even with your son. We've done over an hour. So, so we're good. Tell people and they get a hold of you.
Jim at jimallen.com. First of all, is my email. My phone number is 919-625-7281. And that is my mobile. And I don't hesitate to give it to people because I feel like, and I told somebody this the other day, if somebody is willing to reach out to me, I owe them a call back, and I want to talk to them as well. That's what it is. But listen, I also want to give a plug while we're on here. I agree. Linda Craft is one of the best agents there is on the planet. He doesn't just have to say it. There's a small group of people who dedicated their lives in every profession. And I consider Linda to be one of those colleagues that I feel, at least in our market, I can't speak to any other market.
We did live across the aisle from each other for years.
That's right, brother. But I say it because I know what a commitment it takes. Only thing I would love for everybody in this room to take away from today, if they can, is that I'm a pretty simple dude. All the people you build up to these pedestals, none of those people can really function at that level. We're all broken inside. We're all looking for how do we get out of our own way to be successful. We're all sinners. We all carry it with us every day. All I would want is if there's any way on this planet that I can encourage somebody else not to be afraid. Fear stops everything. Financial courage means the ability to go do something without worrying about the risk of it. But here's what most people do. They hold everything right here And what you hold here is what you're most likely to lose. So instead, free it up.
Let it go.
Free your heart. Give it out there. Throw it out there because you don't deserve it anyway.
His name's Jim Allen. Stay with me, Jim. Thanks so much for having the show. Folks, this is a show, you know what I say to you every week, right? You're in control of three things: your attitude, your effort, and your resiliency. The fact of the matter is life may not give you the circumstances that you want, or maybe the situation that you're in right now, but you know what you are in control of? You're in control of your attitude. And the fact of the matter is put that on. Use that positive attitude to your benefit. The second is your effort, and that is tied to your excellence. We don't have the same energy that we have every day in the tank, but here's the thing. Can you be excellent with the energy that you have today and the effort that you choose to give? And finally, we all get punched in the gut and punched in the teeth. Fact of the matter is it's up to you to get up. Why? Because you're worth it, and we want you on the team. You had a lot of choices. You chose us. I thank you for that. If you're watching us on YouTube, which I know some of you are, give us a thumbs up. If you're listening to us via podcast, wherever that may be, we're on all of them. You know what? Give us a 5-star positive review. Tell your friends. As I say to you all over the world, you know what that is, right? Ciao, everybody.